The Legend of Zelda is one of Nintendo's most beloved and successful franchises to date, and this is no surprise considering how consistently good these games manage to be. What many people don't really discuss about these games though, are their trailers and commercials used to advertise them, which are surprisingly wacky, terrifying, and oftentimes makes you question how The Legend of Zelda became so successful considering how, well, whatever this is. So in this video, I think it would be fun to rank every single Zelda game from worst to best, only judging them based on their trailers and commercials. And when I say ranking every single Zelda game, I mean I'll be ranking every single one, where I'll be covering the spin-offs and games that you may not even know existed. And there are even some wild commercials for the popular Zelda games that you probably have never seen before. So, will the quote-unquote good Zelda games beat out the ones that leave much to be desired? Let's find out.
I'm so hungry, I could eat an Octorok!
Kicking it off with the Zelda game with the worst commercials, we have no surprise to many, the CDI games. It was actually difficult to even find any commercials for these 3 Forbidden Zelda games, where I only found one small commercial clip referencing one of them.
An interactive adventure through fantastic worlds.
That clip shows footage from the Faces of Evil, but I couldn't find any commercials for Wand of Gamelon or Zelda's Adventure. The lack of commercials honestly seems about right, considering the low production budget of these games, along with their dreadfully low sales numbers. Also, it doesn't help that the narrator's voice of the commercial sounds like he's reading you a bedtime story, and the music playing in the background sounds like something you'd hear while waiting on an elevator.
You can choose from more than 100 interactive titles by world-renowned publishers. CDI titles start at just $15.
Zelda has always been about fun and action-packed gameplay, but this commercial makes the game seem like a bore. Even when the guy says, an interactive adventure through fantastic worlds.
An interactive adventure through fantastic worlds.
It sounds like the guy's being sarcastic. Back in the CDI's heyday, Philips marketed the system as a family entertainment product where you could educate yourself and watch movies, but they avoided mentioning video games to avoid competition with game consoles. For a company trying to sell video games and not calling them video games in their commercials, that just sounds like a recipe for disaster. Also, I find it pretty laughable how they cover the price of the CDI at the end of the commercial.
You might expect to pay over $1,000 for an entertainment system that does this much, but now you can own a Philips CDI player for only $499.
The guy says that they should be selling the CDI for $1,000 to try and ease the painful reveal of the whopping $500 price tag. You wouldn't even see someone paying that much for a video game console even in today's day and age. Oh wait. For the Zelda game with the next best commercials, we have the first main series game of this ranking list, Phantom Hourglass for the DS. This was actually my first childhood Zelda game that I played the heck out of on my DS Lite, but I would have to say, Nintendo really missed the mark when it came to its commercials. The Japanese ones, for example, are super boring, where most of them don't even play music, and the one that actually has music in it plays arguably the worst song in the game, the cave theme. Which plays very lightly, as you can hear an air conditioner unit whirring in the background. And the visuals for this commercial aren't exactly fun to watch either, where you pretty much just watch a girl with an expressionless face read a sign and walk Link around slowly. Like you would have the same amount of enjoyment watching someone do their math homework at a library. The British commercial for Phantom Hourglass is just plain unintentionally funny. Take a look.
Discover underground chambers and unravel tricky puzzles on a brave quest to find the ghost ship.
The narrator says unravel tricky puzzles as you watch a lady blow out a candle. Like, ooh, a candle? What shall I do? I bet the solution isn't to blow into the DS's microphone, which is the entire gimmick of the system. Also, I think it's even funnier how they zoom in on the girl's lips as she's blowing into the mic, as if it's some piece of riveting gameplay that needs an up-close shot to behold. The United States commercials for this game are more normal, which mostly show various gameplay with the game's theme song playing in the background. Except in this one, this woman calls the rupees coins.
Oh, coin?
Like it's pretty obvious they're not familiar at all with the game, and for a commercial that's goal is to promote the game, that seems a bit problematic now, doesn't it? For the next game's commercials, we have one of the least known Zelda games to exist, Barcode Battler 2. The game itself is essentially just a pack of cards with barcodes on them that you swipe into a barcode reader to use items and kill enemies until you win. The cards are all A Link to the Past themed, where this game came out right after A Link to the Past release, and I was actually surprised to find a commercial for this game. Take a look.
ノート大ワプロカセット大シリ電池大おにぎりとバーコードで戦うゲームマシンバーコードバトラー新登場最強のバーコードを見つけるのは
I couldn't actually find a commercial specific to the Zelda cards, but since the game itself is mostly just this barcode reader machine thing, I think this commercial would qualify for this video. Honestly, I think this commercial does a really good job with the elementary game that is Barcode Battler 2, where all you really do to play this thing is swipe cards and watch numbers go up and down. But the commercial itself is really catchy with the little song they have going on, and I find it pretty funny that they took the time to paint a barcode on this bald guy's head. That's dedication right there. For the game with the next best commercials, we have the OG, The Legend of Zelda for the NES. Let's leave it up to these guys to take it away for this one.
It's The Legend of Zelda and it's really rad. Those creatures from Ganon are pretty bad. Octoroks, Tektites, Levers too. But with your help, our hero pulls through. Yeah, go Link, yeah, get Zelda. Awesome. Intense.
Couldn't have said it better myself. But seriously, these early Zelda ads really exemplify the cheesiness of typical 1980s commercials. They have some nerdy guy who I'm pretty sure nobody actually acted like in real life, and then they straight up broke off into a Zelda rap because that's not totally random or anything. At least the nerdy guy looks like he's into it. Also, I don't know if they told the kid to do this, but they have him jerking his head around like he's bobbing for apples or something. Also, check out what the narrator guy says at the end of the commercial.
The Nintendo Entertainment System. Your parents help you hook it up.
I think it's funny how they say that, as if that's a selling point for picking up the game. He doesn't say, ask your parents for help setting it up or anything. It's just assume that your parents will help you out automatically. The other American commercial that I found is even more absurd. Take a look at this.
Zelda! Which way you go? Good time. Pee hands. Levers. Zelda!
The Legend of Zelda. A never-ending adventure new for your Nintendo Entertainment System.
Zelda!
I'm almost convinced with this one, they just followed a mental patient around a psych ward with a camera and filmed him scream random words associated with the game and called it a commercial. It's pretty comical how little the commercial portrays the actual game, and I feel like they thought they needed some dude acting like a goofball to catch kids' attention enough to want the game. Zelda 1 sold extremely well back in the day, so I guess they were doing something right with the advertising here. Also, I was pretty surprised with how wild the Japanese commercial for this game was. Check this out.
Zelda の伝説もさすがディスクで面白い。下手くそ。
ムカッとくるけど。やめられない。やればやるほどディスクシステム。
Like dang, I feel like if parents of kids watched this commercial back in the day, they would want to boycott Zelda 1 with how much screaming was in the ad. I honestly find a lot of charm in these Zelda 1 commercials. They may be off the wall and have a vague relation to the actual game, but they're honestly pretty hilarious and I'd say that they're actually quite good. You honestly have to feel bad for this guy having a shrill child scream directly in his ear though. You can't tell me this guy is acting. That's the face of pure pain right there. For the game with the next best commercials, we have a cluster of games. The 3 Tingle DS games of Freshly Picked Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land, Ripened Tingle's Balloon Trip of Love, and Too Much Tingle Pack. Wow, that was a mouthful. All of these commercials are very similar, and all are in Japanese. They're all pretty average, and while Tingle is a complete goofball, the ads just show a compilation of gameplay footage while the narrator gives a brief rundown of the games. I would rank these games higher because they have just standard good commercials, but one can only rank Tingle so high in a ranking video and still have enough self-respect for themselves. So, let's move on. Next up, we have the game that probably has the most infamous Zelda commercial out there, A Link to the Past. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this Japanese commercial at some point, but I'll play a bit of it for those who haven't seen this exquisite cinematic masterpiece. I think this commercial falls into the so bad is good category. And you honestly had to give props to the creators of this for choreographing a whole ass dance routine. I mean, the dance looks like it's straight out of a Michael Jackson music video. And if I saw this commercial without knowing anything about A Link to the Past, I would think I was watching an ad for a Zelda-themed Dance Dance Revolution game, but that's besides the point. Despite me putting this game somewhat low on the list, I actually really like this clip. Link's uncle's absolute behemoth of a mustache and all. This commercial is so absurd and hilarious, but it just doesn't really accurately portray what the game is actually about. The American A Link to the Past commercial is decent and goes for the first-person point of view live action angle. It doesn't actually show any gameplay footage, so you have no idea what the game actually looks like, but they have a piece of dialogue here which I find pretty cool.
And just when you think your search has ended, you find it's just begun.
They foreshadow stumbling into the dark world where the game really opens up and most of the content gets revealed to the player. This subtle reference is pretty awesome and shows that the creators of this ad had a pretty solid understanding of the game, unlike, well, whatever they were trying to go for in this commercial. For the game with the next best commercials, we have a not so popular Zelda game of 4 Swords for the Game Boy Advance. The Japanese rendition for this one is super goofy and cute, where you have these Link puppets walking around and doing random stuff that you would do while playing the game. It also cuts to this scene of 4 kids standing outside playing the game together, and they all have the same color of shirts as the 4 Links in the game, which I think is a super cool touch. The American commercial is totally on the opposite end of the spectrum of this cute and innocent commercial. Get a load of this.
The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past for Game Boy Advance, and now 4 can play.
Do I smell fear?
Rated E for everyone.
Like geez, this commercial seems like it's more suited for a horror game. Is that supposed to be a Hinox? Look at its teeth! And that's supposed to be one of those armored soldier guys? I don't remember his eyes glowing blood red in the game. I honestly feel like they were just going over the top with this ad to try and catch people's attention to get them to buy the game. Also, they even say something in this commercial that's not even true.
The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past for Game Boy Advance, and now 4 can play.
They're advertising it as a 4-player A Link to the Past, when that's not even how the game works, where the 4-player game is 4 Swords, which is a totally different experience than the single-player A Link to the Past that's on the same cartridge. The A Link to the Past experience is almost exactly how it is on the Super Nintendo, where it's single-player. Tisk tisk Nintendo. Also, here's a little bonus commercial that I thought was cool. For the 4 Swords Anniversary Edition that came out for the 3DS, they made a commercial where Robin Williams made a cameo with his daughter, Zelda Williams. Nintendo had them in the ad because Robin Williams named his daughter after Princess Zelda due to his love of the series. Robin Williams did a few of these Legend of Zelda commercials in the early 2010s, also with Skyward Sword and Ocarina of Time 3D, which are pretty awesome to see. For the next game in the ranking, we have another multiplayer Zelda game of 4 Swords Adventures for the GameCube. One of the more interesting commercials for this game comes from the French. Check this out.
La coopération, ça a du bon. Mais la compétition, c'est encore meilleur. En solo avec une manette ou en multijoueur avec la connectivité, contrôlez 4 Link. The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventures, exclusif sur GameCube.
There's this pretty cool animated section of the ad that shows the 4 Links running around similar to how they would look with the Wind Waker's graphics. 4 Swords Adventures is entirely 2D with pixelated sprites, so it's honestly surprising how they went above and beyond with these visuals here. In the Japanese and Korean releases of 4 Swords Adventures, there was actually an exclusive mode not seen in Western versions of the game called Navi Trackers, where 4 players could compete against each other, while Wind Waker characters make appearances such as Tetra. These 4 animated Links from the French commercial look awfully similar to those 4 Links animated in the Japanese exclusive Navi Trackers mode, which is pretty neat. It also doesn't really make any sense because the French version of the game didn't have Navi trackers, but then again, who am I to judge? The Japanese commercials for 4 Swords Adventures are pretty generic and are nothing to write home about, where they cover the traditional modes seen in all versions of the game, along with gameplay footage of Navi trackers. The American commercial, however, is, well, just see for yourself.
Woe be me. For with this sword I have unleashed an evil wind that has taken our beloved princess. Our journey is fraught with danger, but together we 4 might overcome the mage's dark magic. Only then will all the maidens be released, and our princess, once again, be rescued.
Who are you?
Yeah, this guy needs to be put on a list. Seriously though, I feel like the 2000s were full of random off-the-wall commercials like this that didn't make any sense. Who are you, she says?
Who are you?
Yeah, I'd like to know too. And what's up with that troll face grin he breaks into after looking dead serious? This guy is either on another planet, if you know what I mean, or he knows things. What does he know? I don't even want to know. For the next set of best commercials in a Zelda game, we have A Link Between Worlds for the 3DS. And well, you wouldn't believe what they did for the Japanese commercial. Ah yes, the Zelda Japanese musical has made a comeback. All they're missing now are the dudes in lizard costumes, and an animatronic Ganon being bested by the almighty power of the Hyrule Hoedown. To be real though, it's pretty cool how they allude to A Link to the Past here, considering A Link Between Worlds is essentially a reimagining of A Link to the Past, where in Japan, A Link Between Worlds is literally called Triforce of the Gods 2, and A Link to the Past was named Triforce of the Gods. Where A Link Between Worlds commercials really shine though is with the American one.
To become a legend, you must be willing to risk everything. There is no challenge you can't overcome. No danger you can't escape, and no dungeon you can't solve. You can use Link's new powers in an all-new adventure to conquer Hyrule's ancient dungeons. The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds.
This was a major throwback for me because I remember watching this back in the day when A Link Between Worlds first came out in 2013. The wall merging mechanic is super cool and hilarious to see put into action in real life, and the transition from real life to video game Link is super smooth. The wall merging mechanic is quite honestly the best aspect about this game, so I think it's nice that they showcased it here. Also, the set they built in this temple looking place is super detailed and honestly looks like it's straight out of an Indiana Jones movie scene. Super cool. So, the commercials only get better from here. For the next game, we have Skyward Sword. For this game, we have perhaps one of the most devastating examples of if the Zelda world existed in real life. Check this out. Literal raining swords. Like imagine walking outside after a nice little nap, looking up into the sky, thinking, oh, it's starting to rain, and then ending up looking like Ganondorf at the end of the Wind Waker. That's not the kind of world I want to live in. To be real though, this commercial is totally random, and I think that randomness factor was a strategy to get people to pay attention so that they would buy the game. Also, what's with the guy starting to smile as if the second coming of Christ has come? Sharp metallic objects are hurtling towards the earth. This is doomsday if anything. On a more positive note, the Robin Williams commercial for Skyward Sword that he filmed with his daughter is super well done, and kind of makes me want to play the game again after watching it.
Well done, Zelda, but you have a lot to learn before you become a master.
As Nintendo released Skyward Sword HD for the Switch, they made a bunch of new advertisements that were so well done. I won't play them all because there's a lot of them, but they get you really hyped for the game with the orchestra playing in the background with super cool scenes playing from the game. Also, there's a lot of references to other Zelda games with the text that flashes on the screen, which puts into perspective how Skyward Sword is the first Zelda game in the official timeline. Next up, we have Minish Cap for the Game Boy Advance. The British commercial for this game actually reminds me a lot of the Skyward Sword Falling Swords one.
Shrink in size and embark on a huge adventure in the Legend of Zelda, the Minish Cap, only on Game Boy Advance.
You have what looks to be a meteor falling from the sky, but it ends up being a match because from your point of view, you're in Minish form. This is honestly pretty cool and showcases the main gimmick of the game of being able to be shrunken down. The Japanese commercial hones in on this tiny Link feature as well, where the beginning of the commercial shows a first-person point of view of you being tiny, but you don't know that you're shrunken down until you see this giant girl looming over you. My favorite commercial for this game, and my favorite commercial on this list so far, has to go to the American one.
Mystic, Microscopic, Conqueror. The Legend of Zelda, the Minish Cap. Only for Game Boy Advance, rated everyone.
The early 2000s CGI models are obviously outdated looking nowadays, but I think the visuals and the music make the game seem awesome. A common stereotype for Zelda products, especially in the early 2000s, was that Nintendo games were for little kids, so it's interesting to see Nintendo trying to break that mold by gearing this ad towards an older audience, by showing an older kid playing the game along with the more mature sounding music. This is especially interesting because Minish Cap is arguably the most cutesy and childlike Zelda game out there, besides perhaps Wind Waker and the 2 DS entries. Also, one interesting tidbit of trivia that I discovered revolves around this "Who are you" text that displays on screen. This also showed up on the Four Swords Adventures commercial that I discussed a little bit ago, but "Who Are You" was actually a marketing campaign by Nintendo to promote the GameCube and Game Boy Advance, where the campaign describes that you are what you play, showing off people in the games they enjoy with either a character's face plastered over theirs, or simply just a title above them. This is honestly a pretty strange marketing campaign to look back at, because I feel like people generally play video games to escape real life, not to form their identity around the game they're playing. Let's just be happy that they discontinued this campaign before they started plastering people's heads on Link as they roasted Koroks alive on makeshift crosses. I swear, the Korok abuse is absurd with this game. Next up, we have a set of 3 games that form a 3-way tie, due to how similar they are, where we have Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, and Cadence of Hyrule Crypt of the Necrodancer, all released for the Switch. I lumped all of these together because they all have really good trailers and commercials, but I don't have anything noteworthy to bring up about any of them. They all play pretty sick music with nice visuals showcasing the games, and I would say all of these commercials mark the spot on the list where the commercials break the really good threshold. So, moving on to the cream of the crop. Next up, we have Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. In any ordinary ranking video, you typically expect to see this game towards the bottom, but the commercials released for this game are actually pretty awesome. The Japanese one has to take the cake as being the coolest. Get a load of this.
Oh! ハイラルの紋章リンクが16歳の時左手の甲に紋章が現れるそれこそが真の勇者の証アクションロールプレイングゲーム「ゼルダの伝説パート2リンクの冒険」ここまで来たらやめられないやればやるほどディスクシステム
You have this little girl with a crudely drawn Triforce glowing on her hand, along with a guy in his mid-20s dressed like a grandma, because that makes sense. They then inexplicably transform into characters from the game, as the grandma makes quite honestly the most memeable expression imaginable. Also, I think it's pretty funny how at the end of the commercial, they even warn the player that the game will probably be hard and they just try and push through anyway. Like, even Nintendo knew this game was hard as balls when they created it. For the American commercial, you get a return of the random Zelda shouts that we've all grown to love. Zelda! Except it's a bit more toned down this time. This commercial is pretty cool though, because they actually have a guy that looks like Link running around a temple looking place. Also, I found this piece of dialogue pretty hilarious.
I cannot help you.
They put so much weight on the "I cannot help you," as if it has some great significance in the game, when that's literally just the stock text that the wizard guy says after he already teaches you a spell. But either way, I guess its inclusion in this commercial is a little nod to how short and oftentimes unhelpful the dialogue is in Zelda 2. Moving up in the ranking, we have Spirit Tracks for the DS. The Japanese commercials for this one are pretty mid and just show gameplay footage with barely any commentary, but they really went above and beyond with the American commercial.
Link and Zelda team up in an all-new epic adventure, The Legend of Zelda: Spirit Tracks.
The whole subway aesthetic is super creepy and no doubt terrified kids back in the day. I don't think it's as terrifying as that Subway 4 Swords one we talked about earlier, but something about watching Zelda's soul leave her body is pretty chilling. I think Spirit Tracks as a whole is super underrated as a Zelda game, so it's pretty cool to see such a well done commercial as this. The British commercials are solid too, but they have some pretty hilariously unintentionally funny moments.
Let's try this.
Embark on an epic adventure filled with devilish action puzzles.
Excuse me? Devilish action puzzles? I just watched a lady walk across some ice with no enemies around as the chillest lullaby of a cave theme played in the background. If this is one of the more devilish puzzles in the game, I'm afraid the tamer ones might put me to sleep. Also, there's this other British commercial where I think they totally forgot to edit out a clip or something. They literally showed someone messing up in the part of the game that I've heard that most people complain about, the DS's microphone. Why would they include a clip that highlights one of the biggest faults of the game? Beats me. Also, what's even more absurd is when they actually show the lady playing the song right. Her mouth is so far from the DS's microphone that you already know she wasn't able to play the song right, and that this was filmed in 2 different clips. When I played this game, I felt like I needed to hold a whole ass box fan up to the DS's microphone to make it register as me playing. There's no way blowing at the DS this far away would do anything. But long story short, the American commercial really saved Spirit Tracks in the ranking here. So, let's keep moving up the list. Next up, we have the Wind Waker. Similar to Spirit Tracks, the Japanese commercials are pretty much just gameplay compilations of the game. I still think they're really well done though, where the music playing in the background really instills that feeling of adventure. The American commercials are where this game shines in my opinion, where one looks like it could be an actual trailer for a movie.
In the land of Hyrule, there echoes a legend. A legend held dearly by the royal family that tells of a boy who became a man. He embarked on a great journey to the deepest, darkest corners of the earth, battling the forces of evil, testing the limits of his will, all to fulfill his destiny, which is, above all else, to save me.
The narration by Zelda's sister here, who's the one you actually save in the game instead of Zelda, is pretty neat, because pretty much the only instances where you heard voice acting from Zelda characters up until this point was from the Zelda cartoon, along with those games that shall not be named. I will say the live action aesthetic does sort of conflict with the cartoony graphics of Wind Waker, where I think this style of commercial would probably be better suited for a game like Twilight Princess. Despite this though, I still think this trailer was really well done. Another super cool trailer comes from America. Check this out.
Every game has a story. Only one is a legend. The legend is back. Join Link on a quest over land and sea through a vivid world of adventure unlike anything you've ever seen before.
We haven't gotten to this game yet in the ranking, but this commercial is very similar to the iconic Ocarina of Time commercial with the old English style text that flashes on the screen, where both commercials play the same song. I really like the nod to the extremely successful Ocarina of Time, but I will say this sort of epic soundtrack gearing you up for battle, so to speak, sort of conflicts with the innocent, cartoony style of Wind Waker. I feel like these two American trailers were probably a nail in the coffin for a lot of people, where before Wind Waker's graphics were revealed, a lot of fans thought they were going to receive a more mature style Zelda game, due to a Zelda Space World demo that came out in the year 2000. These mature feeling commercials, coupled with the quote kiddie graphics of Wind Waker, probably left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths at the time. We can look back at the game and appreciate it nowadays, but I could see how a lot of fans back in the day felt bamboozled. For the next best trailers for a Zelda game, we actually have a spin-off for the Wii, Link's Crossbow Training. At its core, Link's Crossbow Training is a pretty simple and short game. It's a shooter arcade-like game where you rack up points by hitting targets, where it's a pretty casual game. The commercials, however, make this game seem like one of the most fun things you can experience on the Wii. Just look at how much fun these guys are having. The American commercial probably takes the crown as being the best though, where they have arguably the most addictive sounding music playing in the backgrounds. If that song doesn't make you want to whip out your Wii Zapper and shoot some Gorons in their nether regions, I don't know what will. Also, everyone looks like they're having an absolute blast in this trailer. You've got some kids, a mom, heck, they've even got Gramps playing this game. Nintendo knew what they were doing trying to market this game to all ages, which was a popular marketing strategy for Wii games. Next up, we have a game whose commercials take a drastically different tone compared to the others on the list, Majora's Mask. The marketing campaign for this game isn't really talked about much, but the depth of it is pretty expansive, where you don't really see anything like it in today's day and age. Check out a clip from one of the commercials.
Radio Zelda is now transmitting.
He's playing. He's playing, I knew it.
Just a reminder, 72 hours remaining until the end of the world.
This over 2-minute long commercial depicts the real world as if we actually had 3 days left to live, counting down the days until the end of the world, mimicking the plot of Majora's Mask. The narration comes from a radio broadcast called Radio Zelda, and actually gets super depressing towards the end of the ad when the time runs out, where the broadcast starts to take phone calls from random people.
You're listening to Radio Zelda,
Night's falling, this isn't good.
and with less than 6 hours left,
He's almost got it.
I think we should take some phone calls. Hello, caller.
Hello?
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead. We're listening.
I just...
Believe in the boy.
Mom, I love you. And Dad, I miss you. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
These are all actors in this commercial, of course, but it really puts into perspective how dark of a tone Majora's Mask possesses. This whole Radio Zelda concept doesn't stop with the commercial though, where Nintendo actually made a website online at radiozelda.com, which can only be accessed today using the Wayback Machine. Back when Majora's Mask came out in the year 2000, the internet was booming in popularity, so it makes sense why Nintendo would capitalize on this popularity by creating a website used to advertise the game. This website mimicked the content of the Radio Zelda commercial, where there was different videos, audio, and articles posted on radiozelda.com, discussing the end of the world and the moon coming closer to crashing into Earth, where the only way to stop it would be for a kid to beat the Majora's Mask game. Even the Radio Zelda commercial talks about rooting for a kid to beat the game to save the world.
You think he's gonna make it? I hope so.
And hey, listen, kid. I don't know if you can hear me, but you're all we've got. So good luck. Play hard. Win this one, will you?
This wouldn't be the only commercial in this style released in the United States though, where there's this one that's especially disturbing and dystopian feeling. This commercial also touches on the idea of some kid being our only hope to save humanity, where him being able to beat the game would save mankind. The idea is pretty absurd, but is a pretty cool way to market the game, role-playing with the audience as if them buying and beating the game has a greater purpose than it actually does. I also find it pretty hilarious how at the end of the commercial they say this.
Rated E for everyone.
Like wow, they created one of the most bleak and thematically tense commercials ever created, and slapped on a rated E for everyone at the end. More like rated E for everyone you love and cherish is going to die. The Japanese commercials don't have as much depth to them as the American ones, but I would have to admit they're pretty creepy. Seeing Majora's glowing red eyes in the dark behind this guy is really chilling, and Majora isn't even that creepy in the actual game. But all in all, I really like the commercials of Majora's Mask and think they capture the feeling of the game really well. For the next game, we have Link's Awakening. The commercials for this game are all over the place, where each region of the world seemed to be going for a different marketing strategy. The most iconic of these commercials probably goes to the puppets hailing from Japan.
この度リンクがついたのはどこかの海の変な島。こいつは夢か幻か島から全然出られない。
どうしよう。
On surface level, this just seems like another one of those lol XD random Japanese commercials. But these puppet things are actually closely related to the plot of the game. Link's Awakening takes place in the mind of the Windfish, where you're controlling Link in a fantasy world. And these puppets from the commercial are putting on a play, connoting the idea of playing pretend in the fantasy world they reside in. You just have to read between the lines to notice that. Also, the song that goes with it is pretty catchy as well, I would have to say. One of the other Japanese commercials actually rivals Majora's Mask in terms of horror. Check this out. The kids' jaws drop in an exaggerated manner to try and show that they're in awe at how good Link's Awakening is as a game. But am I the only one that finds this rather disturbing? Like, this image is straight out of the uncanny valley with how creepy it looks. On the other end of the spectrum, the British commercial for Link's Awakening takes the celebrity approach, where they have
Rick Mail here.
Who is
Immensely rich, talented, handsome.
Check out what he has to say about the game.
You play a medieval elf named Link.
You travel through many worlds, meeting endless characters on your eternal adventures.
So hey, next time you're Rick Mail, why not try Zelda Link's Awakening? I think you'll like it.
You heard it from the best. This game's for Rick Mail and Rick Mail only. Honestly though, I had no idea who this guy was until I saw this commercial. Maybe it's just because I'm not British. I also think it's funny how Rick here calls Link an elf.
You play a medieval elf named Link.
When we're so used to referring to him as Hylian. Ocarina of Time was really the first Zelda game to openly feature Hylian characters, and Link's Awakening came out before Ocarina of Time, so maybe it was acceptable to call Link an elf back then. Who knows? The American commercial breaks the mold of all the previous commercials, where we have the one and only Zelda rap. Check this out.
Zelda. Peeping through with an overhead view, cause a man's gotta do what a man's gotta do. So I stay on track, collect the facts, never cut the slack, and I always watch my back for Jack. Zelda, yeah. Don't understand, I'm the man with the plan, cause the power's in my head and the power's in my hand. Zelda.
Ah, man's gotta do what a man's gotta do. Coming from the Fresh Prince of Hyrule. I think it would have been hilarious if they remade this commercial for the Link's Awakening remake for the Switch. Or maybe it was for the best they didn't, because this commercial really doesn't age too well. I guess Nintendo thought the only way to catch kids' attention in the 90s was through a rap. And this commercial really was a solid snapshot of the early 90s East Coast vibe. Moving higher up in the ranking, we have the final multiplayer Zelda game of Triforce Heroes. I have a mixed relationship with Triforce Heroes, mostly due to the fact that it's basically unplayable unless you have two other people with 3DSs to play locally. But I was surprised to see how well the commercials were done for this game. Probably my favorite bunch for this game goes to the Japanese trailers. Check this out. There's something so enjoyable about watching these three Japanese guys screaming at each other in their language that I don't understand. They really highlight the chaos that comes with multiplayer gameplay, where multiplayer is hands down the best way to experience Triforce Heroes. Also, you have to give them props for going all out dressing up like the three Links, and even getting on each other's shoulders like the Links do in the actual game. Like, I wonder how many takes this shot took. The American commercial is a little less exciting, but it does touch more on the different outfits that you can unlock, and wear as upgrades for a range of different effects. I remember being super into trying to collect all these back in the day, and these outfits were a major reason why I played this game for as long as I did. Breaking into the top 5 sets of best trailers for Zelda games, we have the two Oracle games, which I lumped together because I couldn't find a single commercial that advertised one of them without mentioning the other. But I would have to say, they really went all out for the American trailer for these games.
adventure too big for just one game. Rated E for everyone. Get into it.
They didn't need to go all out like this for a couple of pixelated games for the Game Boy Color, but they did anyway. The graphics make you feel like you'll be embarking on an epic adventure if you buy the game. And the last bit of the trailer really does it for me when the narrator says,
"And an adventure too big for just one game."
It really is an adventure too big for one game, and it's pretty crazy to look back and see that Nintendo released two really good mainline Zelda games on the same day, when nowadays, each mainline game is separated by years of development time. The Japanese commercials also look rather visually impressive, where Link's design looks to be a doll that they use stop-motion animation to animate. This reminds me a lot of those old-school cartoons like Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and fits really well with the cute, almost toy-like aesthetic that are the Oracle games. For the number 4 best spot, we actually have the newest Zelda game of Tears of the Kingdom. As I'm sure a lot of you remember, there was a lot of hype surrounding this game before it was released. Breath of the Wild was a masterpiece, and yet Nintendo was trying to make this masterpiece even better than it already was. A lot of people were skeptical that Tears of the Kingdom could live up to their expectations. And while Tears of the Kingdom has sort of a love-hate relationship among many fans nowadays, you have to admit the trailers for this game were spectacular. The final trailer in particular was the best out of all of them, and I remember getting super hyped to get my hands on the game after seeing that trailer for the first time. I'll play a bit of it in case you forgot about it. The trailer shows so much cool gameplay, and the song that plays in the background is arguably the best song that Nintendo has produced for the Legend of Zelda series as a whole. So why is this game in the number 4 spot? Well, I think the actual commercials that aired on TV for this game are less to be desired. A lot of these commercials harp on the creativity factor of being able to solve puzzles your own way, where there's not one set solution for each puzzle, which definitely is one of my favorite parts about the game, but most of the commercials just come across as cheesy, where you can tell that the people in them are actors with artificial reactions. Like, take a look at this one.
Whoa. There. That's where I gotta go. How do I get over there? There! The fan! Add it! It flies! No, 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 no!
Oh, you just messed with the wrong...
Goblin! Go up there!
What? I'm wondering the same thing, buddy. Maybe I'm being overly critical here, but no ordinary person would react like these people while playing the game. Just look at this guy's smug little smirk after performing one of the rudimentary functions of the game. Welp, let's move on to the top 3. Moving into the cream of the crop, we have Ocarina of Time in the number 3 spot. There's a lot of banger trailers for this game, where the most iconic and epic goes to the American one. You just saw an upscaled version I found on YouTube of this trailer, where the actual one that aired back in 1998 wasn't this crystal clear, but high res or not, you have to admit this trailer makes you want to dust off your old N64 and play some Zelda. They went for that old English fantasy aesthetic with the text that flashes up on the screen, and the "or whilst thou suck" is pretty hilarious. Different regions around the world actually have different spins put on this little joke text, where I found one that says, "Have ye the stones?" and another one that says, "Willst thou get the girl or play like one?" The Japanese commercials for this game, however, mostly show people playing the game firsthand and showing their reactions to different things that occur while playing. This is sort of what Tears of the Kingdom did with their trailers, but the Ocarina of Time ones are miles ahead in terms of authenticity, where it really feels that they sat down people in a room with a camera, told them to play the game like normal, and filmed their genuine reactions. There is one commercial left worth mentioning that I'm shocked it even exists in the first place. Get a load of this. This commercial only aired in a few countries around the world, mostly in Latin America, where evidently, Nintendo struck a deal with PepsiCo to make an ad featuring the Mirinda drink. This ad is absolutely absurd and makes me wonder why Nintendo would agree to such a deal. You never see Nintendo's beloved characters posing next to real-world products nowadays. Let me know in the comments if you know how this commercial even came to be. I couldn't really find any additional information on it online besides a video of the commercial itself. So, moving on to the next game. For the number 2 spot, we have Twilight Princess. And boy, the trailers for this game are something else. For the first of these trailers, let me set the scene for you. You're a Zelda fan in the year 2000. After watching a demo of what the next Zelda game could look like on the GameCube, you're awestruck with how revolutionary the graphics are compared to how they look on the N64. And fast forward to the year 2002, you get a game that looks like this. Nothing like the realistic Zelda demo that you saw 2 years prior. You are outraged. Other fans are outraged. But Nintendo listens to your feedback, and when 2004 rolls around, you buy tickets to attend E3, and sitting in the audience, you see this.
Thank you, Mr. Iwata. I hope you've all enjoyed our program this morning. But before you leave, I'd like you to step inside one more world for Nintendo GameCube.
Nintendo has heard your desperate cries for a more realistic style Zelda game, and 6 long years after seeing the Zelda Space World demo, Twilight Princess comes out in 2006. I was only 4 years old when this 2004 E3 trailer aired, so I was obviously too young to be able to experience it at that time, but the roaring applause from the audience in the footage definitely gave me goosebumps watching the video after the fact. The magnificent work of Twilight Princess's promotional material does not stop here though, where the game's official release trailer is something to marvel over. As you can see, similar to the Tears of the Kingdom official trailer, the song playing in the background is an absolute masterpiece. It has ups and downs that correlate with the gameplay you see on screen, and the atmosphere that it instills fits the mood of the game perfectly. Twilight Princess's generic commercials that played on TV were pretty solid as well. They all showcase different people playing different parts of the game, waving around their Wiimote and nunchuck. They do focus a little bit too much on the fishing aspect of the game though, which I honestly found as being one of the most boring aspects of Twilight Princess. But the people playing the game in the commercial seem to be having fun with it, so who am I to judge? The Zelda game with the best commercials and trailers. You all could have probably guessed what this last game was through process of elimination, but it is in fact Breath of the Wild. Leading up to Breath of the Wild's release in March of 2017, I was a massive Zelda fan, and I ate up every little new bit of promotional footage that Nintendo released up until the game's release. One of the biggest selling points of Breath of the Wild was that you could go anywhere you wanted to. See that mountain far off in the distance? You could climb it. See that house far away in the forest? You could visit it. Breath of the Wild was all about putting the choice in the hands of the player, and the trailers and commercials showed this very well. It's no secret how astronomically successful the game was in terms of sales, so it makes sense how good the promotional material was for Breath of the Wild. Heck, Nintendo even created a Super Bowl commercial for the game that aired for Super Bowl 51, just a month before the game was released. Talk about good timing. And this Super Bowl commercial probably could not have been executed better, where it showed off the handheld versus TV mode functionalities of the Switch, along with epic scenes from the actual game. I'd say the Breath of the Wild Nintendo Switch Presentation 2017 trailer takes the cake as being the best trailer/commercial for the game though, where every now and then, I come back to watch this trailer to appreciate how much of a masterpiece Breath of the Wild is, and also to get a little boost of nostalgia.
daughter.
It feels weird to call this game nostalgic, being that it came out in 2017, which seems pretty recent, but Breath of the Wild just reached its 7th birthday, which is pretty crazy to me how time has flown by. But all in all, the soundtrack from this trailer is fantastic. The 2017 Switch hype was something magical, and Breath of the Wild is and always will be an amazing game. So, that's every single Zelda game ranked from worst to best based on their trailers and commercials. In the description, I linked every single one of the commercials that I played in this video, so check out those if you want to see the raw footage. Also, you might have noticed that I left some Zelda games out of the video, with a few notable ones being BS The Legend of Zelda Ancient Stone Tablets, the Nelsonic Pocket Watch game, as well as that Picross Twilight Princess game that everyone forgets existed. I did not include those games because, well, I couldn't find any commercials or trailers for them, so I excluded them completely. Let me know if you can find any commercials for any Zelda games I missed though, and I'll make sure to shout you out in the comments. So, I think that's about everything. Like this video if you enjoyed it, comment your favorite Zelda commercial, and subscribe to not miss out on future videos like these. So, I'll see you in the next one.